I'm a student at Briarwood University. This happened during my sophomore year in an off-campus apartment. If anyone has had something similar happen to them, I don't know how you coped. I never did. My name is Nolan Frost, and I lived in apartment 4C at the Laurels on Elm Street in Ashford, Pennsylvania during the second semester of my sophomore year. The building was old, built sometime in the 1960s, with creaky floors that groaned under every footstep, and radiators that clanked through the night like something was trapped inside trying to get out. My roommate was a guy named Marcus, who kept to himself mostly. He was up late every single night working on his laptop, the sickly blue glow of the screen barely illuminating his gaunt face in our cramped living room. I figured he was just one of those night owl types, the kind who did their best thinking when the rest of the world went quiet and asleep. We got along fine for the first 3 weeks, barely crossing paths during daylight hours because his schedule was so completely inverted from mine. I'd leave for morning classes and he'd be crawling into bed just as I grabbed my backpack. I came home at night and he'd be just waking up, shuffling to the kitchen for coffee with that 1,000-yard stare. It was weird, but workable. I figured he was just one of those night owl types, doing his best thinking when the world went quiet. That was before I realized quiet wasn't what I should have been afraid of. I started noticing things around week 4. At first, I thought I was just tired and my spatial memory was getting fuzzy. But the couch felt wrong. I could have sworn the couch was pushed closer to the TV the night before. But when I woke up and shuffled to the kitchen for coffee, it was about 6 inches further from where I remembered it. The coffee table had also shifted, its edge now parallel with the rug instead of slightly angled like it had been. I checked my phone for pictures but hadn't documented the living room setup. I figured I just remembered wrong and moved on. That was the first night. I wish I'd paid closer attention then, because by the end of that week, I knew something was deeply, seriously wrong. The bookshelf by the window had migrated 2 inches toward the door. The kitchen table, which I'd left with 4 chairs evenly spaced, now had 2 chairs pulled out further than the others. Marcus never mentioned anything. He just came and went like a shadow, barely making eye contact when our paths crossed in the hallway. I started setting up my own little test. I took a ruler and measured the exact distance from our front door to the TV stand. 47 inches on Monday, 45 on Wednesday, 42 by Friday. Every single night, something was being moved, and the only person with a key besides me was Marcus. I confronted him that weekend. I caught him coming out of his room around midnight, his pale face barely visible in the hallway light. When I asked him directly if he'd been rearranging the furniture, he looked at me with those tired, sunken eyes and said he had no idea what I was talking about. His voice was flat, almost robotic, and he denied everything with a strange calmness that didn't sit right with me. I told him I'd been measuring, that things were clearly moving, but he just shook his head slowly and said, "I must be dreaming." Then he walked past me to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water, like I hadn't said a word. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark living room and watched, but nothing happened until early morning when I finally dozed off in the armchair. When I woke up, the armchair itself had been scooted 6 inches to the left. Marcus was gone, probably already asleep, but I knew in my gut that he'd done it while I was sitting right there, inches away from consciousness. I decided to take a different approach. Instead of measuring, I started documenting everything with my phone, taking photos of every room every morning before I left for class. After 2 weeks of this, I had a clear record of the slow, almost imperceptible movements. The furniture wasn't being rearranged randomly. It was following a pattern, shifting incrementally towards some configuration I couldn't recognize. So I did something that should have occurred to me much sooner. I requested the building's official floor plan from the landlord, claiming I wanted to hang some shelves and needed to know where the walls and pipes were located. He emailed me a PDF within a few hours. When I overlaid the official floor plan onto my apartment, my blood went cold. The layout didn't match. Our apartment, according to the blueprint, should have had a small storage closet where the bathroom door opened, but we had no storage closet. The kitchen was supposed to be narrower, but our kitchen was definitely wider. And most terrifying of all, there was an extra room marked on the floor plan that didn't exist in our apartment at all. It was a room labeled Unit 4 C-R, tucked behind the living room wall, a rectangular space about 10 by 12 feet. I walked to that wall and pressed my hand against it. Solid, cold, no different than any other wall. But according to the blueprint, there was an entire room back there. A room that I had been living next to for weeks without knowing it existed. I knocked on the wall. The sound was dull and deep, completely different from the hollow echo of the other walls. This wall was dense, like it was holding something back. I felt sick. That night, I pretended to go to bed early, but I stayed awake with my phone recording video in the dark, aimed at the living room. I watched the red light of the recording indicator for hours, and around 3 a.m., I saw Marcus get up from his room. He walked to the wall. He placed his hand on it, just like I had. And then he pressed something, and I heard a faint click from inside the wall itself. A section of the baseboard shifted, revealing a tiny gap, no wider than a fingernail. Marcus knelt there, peering into that gap for nearly 10 minutes, breathing slowly and quietly in the dark. Then he stood up, closed the gap, and went back to his room without moving any furniture at all. That was the first night nothing was moved. He was doing something else entirely, something that scared me far more than rearranged couch cushions ever could. I couldn't sleep for the rest of that night. I kept staring at the wall, imagining what could be on the other side, what could be watching Marcus through that tiny gap, what could be whispering instructions to him while I slept. The wall didn't move. The gap was gone. But I swear I could feel something breathing on the other side, slow and patient, like it had all the time in the world to wait for me to finally look. I couldn't stay in that apartment another night, but I also couldn't afford to break my lease, so I did what any terrified college student would do. I bought a small voice-activated recorder and hid it in the living room, tucking it behind the couch cushion where I thought Marcus would never find it. For 3 nights, I captured nothing but the hum of the radiator and the occasional creak of old pipes. But on the 4th night, the recorder picked up something I still can't explain. Around 2 a.m., there were voices, not Marcus's voice. These were softer, lower, like people whispering through a wall, except there was no wall between our living room and whatever was on the other side. The voices weren't speaking English either. It sounded like someone was reciting something slowly, methodically, and then there'd be a pause, followed by a single word that I could almost understand. Almost. The word sounded like my name, but stretched out, distorted, like it was being spoken by a mouth that didn't quite know how to form it correctly. I played the recording for my friend Jenna the next day, and she went pale. She told me it sounded like the voices were coming from inside the walls themselves, like the walls were breathing and trying to speak. I told her she was being dramatic, but I didn't believe my own words. Something was very wrong in that apartment, and I was starting to feel like I was losing my grip on reality. That night, I set up a second camera. a proper one with night vision, positioned to capture the wall Marcus always touched. I watched the footage the next morning, and I saw him kneel at the baseboard again, press the hidden mechanism, and this time the gap was wider, much wider. I could see into the darkness beyond the wall, and I could see something moving in that darkness. Not Marcus, something else. Something tall and thin with long arms that hung lower than they should have. It was standing perfectly still, and Marcus was just staring at it, nodding slightly, like he was receiving instructions. The video was grainy, distorted by the low light, but I could see enough. I could see enough to know that Marcus wasn't the one moving the furniture. He was just the messenger. Whatever was in that hidden room was directing him, and it was slowly, methodically, inch by inch, pulling our apartment apart and reshaping it to match some other design that had nothing to do with where we were living. I stayed at Jenna's apartment for 3 days after that. I couldn't go back. I couldn't face those walls. Couldn't sleep under a ceiling that felt like it was pressing down on me every night. But eventually, I ran out of excuses. I had to go back. I had to face whatever was waiting for me in that room. I went to campus security that afternoon. I showed them the floor plan discrepancy, the video footage, the audio recordings, everything. They listened politely, made some notes, and then told me they'd send someone to inspect the wall. The inspector came the next day, knocked on the wall, said it was solid, and told me old buildings often had blueprint inconsistencies from decades of renovations. He left. I was alone again. That night, I didn't wait for Marcus to do whatever he did. I took a hammer and I broke through the baseboard myself. The gap was there, just like always, and this time I didn't hesitate. I reached inside and pulled, and the entire section of wall swung inward like a door, revealing a room behind it that should have been impossible. It was exactly 10 by 12 feet, lit by a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. The walls were covered in drawings, hundreds of drawings, all of them floor plans. Floor plans for our apartment, but drawn over and over again. Each version slightly different, each one showing the furniture in a new arrangement. In the corner of the room was a chair, and in the chair was sitting something that used to be a person. I say used to be because it had no eyes, no nose, no recognizable features at all. Just smooth, gray skin stretched over a skeleton that was far too long and far too thin. It turned its head toward me when the light hit it, and it smiled. It actually smiled, this lipless, eyeless thing, and the smile was somehow worse than anything I'd ever seen. Behind it, pinned to the wall, was a final drawing. It was our apartment, but completed. Every room matched the official floor plan exactly. There was the storage closet where it should have been. There was the narrow kitchen. And there, in the center of the living room, was a single chair, drawn in perfect detail. The same chair I always sat in. The same chair I'd been slowly guided toward for weeks without realizing it. Marcus was standing behind me in the doorway. He put his hand on my shoulder. He said, very calmly, "Sit down. You're almost home." And that's when I understood. The furniture wasn't being rearranged. The entire apartment was being rearranged, and so was I, piece by piece, night by night, to fit inside a room that had been waiting for me before I ever signed the lease. I didn't sit. I ran. I ran, and I didn't stop, not until I was 3 states away, sleeping in my car outside a rest stop, too terrified to close my eyes for more than a few minutes at a time. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the whisper on the recordings, still see the floor plans in my dreams. And sometimes, just before I fall asleep, I feel the walls of whatever room I'm in shift slightly, just an inch or two, settling into a configuration I don't recognize. I'm never really home anymore. I'm always being arranged. The nightmares didn't stop when I left. That's the first thing you need to understand. I thought running would be enough. I thought distance would break whatever invisible thread was connecting me to that apartment, to that room, to whatever sat in that chair and smiled without eyes. I transferred to a school 2 states away. I found a new apartment with a roommate who was normal, who slept at normal hours, who never touched the furniture at all. For 3 weeks, I almost convinced myself I was safe. And then I found the drawings. They were tucked inside the lining of my suitcase, folded into pieces so small you couldn't see them unless you knew to look. Hundreds of them. Floor plans for my new apartment, drawn in Marcus's handwriting, each one showing the furniture in a slightly different position. On the last one, there was a chair in the center of the living room, and next to the chair, a figure that was barely a sketch, but I recognized the posture immediately. It was me. It was always me. I threw the drawings away, but the next night I found more, slipped under my door while I was sleeping, then more, tucked into my textbooks, then more, hidden in my clothes, in my shoes, in the spaces between the walls of my new room. The entity wasn't in the hidden room anymore. The entity had followed me. It had been following me since I first opened that wall, and now it was inside my head, rearranging my thoughts the way it had rearranged my furniture, slowly, methodically, piece by piece, until I wouldn't know where I ended and it began. I stopped sleeping. I stopped going to class. I sat in my room with all the lights on, measuring obsessively, the bed to the door, the desk to the window, everything to everything else. Every morning the numbers were different. The entity didn't need doors or windows. It lived in the gaps, in the spaces between walls, rearranging my room from the inside out. The ceiling was lower. I was sure of it, pressing down like a coffin lid. I ran. I drove to my parents' house and told them everything. My father went quiet. Then he asked if I'd ever noticed something wrong with my childhood bedroom. My blood went cold. I had. He showed me the deed. There was a room on it, sealed off before we moved in, a room that shouldn't exist. His father warned him about it. His grandfather warned him about it. It's been in my family for 4 generations. It doesn't just follow me. It's part of my blood, part of my line. And now I'm sitting in my childhood room, and I can hear it breathing behind the wall. I can feel the walls shifting. I'm not running this time. There's nowhere left to run. The room has been waiting my entire life, and I'm finally ready to come home.